Each individual unit is owned privately, but they pay a fee for someone to run and look after it. And that's what I was looking at. So when the girls moved out and I decided to start that up, the other daughter said, "Hey, Dad, get a bigger one and we'll do it together." I thought, well, it's not really the whole idea. The whole idea was to sit on a beach and mow lawns and not do much. But it's hard to scale that up to something big enough to suit two people. So we looked around for something similar and it became a motel. Permanent on-site management for nearly 4 years. So we did everything. We did reception, maintenance, everything but the cleaning. We had a team of cleaners, but we ran the laundry, we ran the washing machines, dryers, ironers, everything you could think of. And then we just had the set of cleaners to do the daily cleans of the rooms. And then it still was piling up. So we thought, well, you've got to spend it. You can't just sit back and count it forever and die with it. So that's something that comes up in your podcast a lot, is how people change their mindset from stacking it up to actually getting around to spending it. And I've gotten to that stage now where I'm thinking I've got to spend it and spend more of it to make sure that it's not just left stacked up behind me when I've gone.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 413.
This is the podcast where we dive deep into the inspiring stories of self-made millionaires from all walks of life. We are your hosts, Jason and Stacy, and each week we uncover the strategies, setbacks, and turning points that led these individuals to financial freedom. Whether you're just starting out or looking to level up your wealth building journey, join us as we share the secrets and wisdom from those who have built their fortunes from the ground up. Get ready to learn, be inspired, and take actionable steps towards your own success.
Listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with my dad, Jace Madison, and my mom, Stacy Madison.
We've got a great show for you today, but before we get into that, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. And I will make a note. We just found an email I missed a couple years ago. The individual wrote back in after no response, which I really apologize for. So if that's you, and we missed a couple others over the last 6, 7, 8 years or whatever, just go ahead and send another one if you don't mind. Get it to the top of my inbox. And always looking for new, great, entertaining guests willing to share their stories. And today on the show, we've got Tony and Melissa. They hail from Australia. Tony's got a net worth of around $7 million or maybe a little over. He was a former police officer turned house husband turned real estate mogul and motelier. She has been working essentially as a CPA in different capacities with her own firm and various firms for quite some time. And most of the net worth is in real estate and in these motels. And really great story and an interesting trajectory. We get into a long discussion about generational wealth, which is a topic that I don't think that we touch on enough in this podcast, and what Tony's plans are around that and what he's doing currently to ensure that his legacy is preserved and that his heirs are taken care of in some respects. So without any further delay, let's get right into the episode with Tony and Melissa. Tony, do you want to just give us about your background and what you're up to now?
Okay, my name's Tony. I'm from Australia. I live on the south coast of New South Wales, about 4 hours below Sydney. I was a policeman for many years, 12 years, became a house husband. And when my kids grew up to the stage where they didn't need me anymore, I decided to become a motelier. Bought into some motels, ran them for a while. My daughter joined me, helped me out, and invested all our turnovers and takings from that to buy many houses, many single family houses. Rolled that into a few other motels and passive investments and got to where we are today, about 4.5 years later.
Holy cow. A lot to unpack there. First of all, though, I want the profession of a house husband. What is that?
So you're the housewife? I'm the opposite.
You're the opposite?
We had 2 girls. My wife liked to work. I didn't. I decided to stay home with them. She kept going to work. So I raised our two girls while she continued working.
Oh, wow. What was she, what was her profession, or what is her profession?
At the time of our girls, though, she was a public servant. Then she eventually went on to start her own accounting business, rolled it over into a bigger accounting business, sold it out to another firm, and then back to the public service, and another accounting business later.
Wow. Wow, what a journey. So I want to dive into all these details and how to get the house husband, because I love that term. I haven't heard it in a long time. But before we do, what's your net worth today?
With borrowings, it's about 1.4. 14 mil.
Awesome. And what is the breakup of that?
Okay, so when I say 14 mil, I have to include that as being my share and my partner. So my partner is my daughter. She finished university at the end of my house husband job, had a degree in criminology, and I said, fine, I can go now and get myself a little motel to run, and see you later, off you go. And she said, Dad, if you get a bigger motel, I can give you a hand. And it rolled on from there. We both went in and got a bigger motel. We ran it together. Eventually turned that into about 16 doors as well. Sold the motel, bought two other motels supposedly as passive investments. And since then we've sold one and bought two others. So we've now got two passive, one semi-passive, and then we gradually sold down all the houses until we've only got one or two left.
And I guess of the 14, how much is your portion, do you think, between you and your wife?
My wife and I decided that when we started this, my daughter and I were set up as a separate entity. We set up a company, our own trusts. My wife kept doing her thing. And so she was totally separate from the business side of things. She became our accountant, our bookkeeper. But otherwise, it was just my daughter and I. So pretty much we're 50-50. I mean, I have to share my share with my wife now because she's retired, but my daughter gets half and I get half to share with my wife.
Okay, so call it 7-ish.
Yep.
Awesome. And if you had to kind of give the breakup, I mean, how much would you say is in real estate? Is it a majority now at this point that are in the motels and the single family that you have left?
Yes, all of us now. We have a caravan park and 3 motels, and pretty much everything we have is into that.
Full residential.
We have 2 primary residences my daughter has one and I have one.
Okay. And is that part of the business too, or y'all just have that kind of separate?
Not part of the business.
Oh, okay. Are those paid off?
No.
Okay. And do you have any money or any investments outside of the real estate at all?
I have about 150 in what you would call an IRA, which we just call a superannuation fund.
Yep.
About 200 in cash, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. So the sale of the CPA businesses, did you roll all that into real estate as well then?
We rolled it into our business, the motel business, is just as part of the family funds.
Okay, cool.
Didn't realize a lot of cash. It was a case of, it was a good salary while she was running it, and once it was sold, it just became about 100,000 in profit.
Okay. So talk to us about this journey of getting into this other asset class that now is essentially retired y'all at kind of, I mean, you've done it in a pretty quick manner and in a later stage of your life and career. I mean, what led to doing this, especially now, 5, 7, 10 years ago or whatever, versus 20 or 30 years ago?
So when I was house husbanding and I was looking around for something to do, I ended up working for my wife for a number of years as a receptionist, office manager, whatever. And I was looking around for something to do for myself. And for me, once the girls were out and gone and the wife was doing her own thing, I liked the idea of having what we call here in Australia management rights, which is a block of units, a block of townhouses. You mow the lawn, you look after the maintenance, and you collect the rent checks. And you own the right to run it. Each individual unit is owned privately, but they pay a fee for someone to run and look after it. And that's what I was looking at doing. So when the girls moved out and I decided to start that up, the other daughter said, "Hey, Dad, get a bigger one and we'll do it together." I thought, well, it's not really the whole idea. The whole idea was to sit on a beach and mow lawns and not do much. It's hard to scale that up to something big enough to suit two people. So we looked around for something similar and it became a motel. I had a friend who was in the business of selling motels. He said, Tony, you've got to buy this one. It's really good value. It's cheap and there's nothing down and you can have it for $1 million. So we went and looked at it and made an offer and started working there December 2012.
Wow. What a wild journey you've been on.
That
Where
December was certainly a wild time. We were sitting there. December in this town is very quiet. And we were sitting there going, what have we done? What? There's no one here. The place is empty. We've got a mortgage of $1 million and there's nothing happening. It was a pretty hair-raising experience to start with.
were most of these properties nearby where you lived?
The first property we bought was about 4 hours from my wife's home. So my daughter and I moved in and lived on site, and my wife stayed back in Canberra, and she commuted every weekend to come and visit us.
Oh, wow. That's wild. So you were on-site management then for the first one?
Permanent on-site management for nearly 4 years. So we did everything. We did reception, maintenance, everything but the cleaning. We had a team of cleaners, but we ran the laundry, we ran the washing machines, dryers, ironers, everything you could think of. And then we just had the set of cleaners to do the daily cleans of the rooms.
What gave you confidence to go buy something that was 4.5 hours away from your house that you knew you were going to have to go be on site for?
Distance didn't bother me. It was something I'd researched and looked into for a number of years, looking for something that I could do without relying on other people to do things for me. So I always knew that it was something other than the daughter helping me out because it was a larger one than I was expecting to do. It was something that I knew that I could cope with regards to just reception, checking people in and out, that sort of thing. The fact that it had a full-on laundry as well was just something, a bonus to give us enough work for the two of us to keep busy.
Is there anything that you look back on that you wish you would have done differently with kind of the monopoly play here, I'll call it, of kind of scaling up the motelier kind of world?
So when we started it, it was, like I said, it was a scary experience. The cash flow once it got going was incredible. It was very good. It was a new build motel in town, which had been run for about 2 years, not particularly well. So when we took it over, we ramped it up and it became very profitable. Living on site, we never left the place. We had no need for cars. We had no need to spend any money. So we pretty much saved everything that we made. And it just built up. So we looked around and thought, well, what are we going to do with all this cash? And we started buying residences. So we bought about 16 doors, single family homes mostly, with 20% down on all of them, and then just kept funding them from the motel turnover.
Is there anything that you learned prior from your research that you kind of felt was a competitive advantage going into buying these, that you knew that you were going to be successful with it, that the cash flow was going to be strong?
No, not really. More hope and a prayer. I felt that there's not a lot that can go wrong. If you've got a town with a good motel presence, people turn up into, they got to keep coming back. It was an amazing town for motels. It's surprisingly good that it was a business town where they just came back every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We were 100% occupancy. Weekends were quiet because it wasn't a holiday town. It was a town that was functioning on lots of people coming and going for trades, salesmen, tradesmen, agriculture, whatever.
What led you to kind of start flipping them, selling, buying more? Why not just kind of buy and hold with some of these?
With the houses or the motels?
Yeah, both, really.
So after nearly 4 years with the motel, we were considered putting managers in there and monitoring it. But because we'd spent so much time in it ourselves for nearly 4 years, we just felt that anybody else was not going to do it justice or was going to make stupid mistakes that were going to really frustrate us. So we ended up selling that one and then putting our money profits into buying two larger ones that were going to be passive and have managers running them, supposedly. That worked for a little while. We kept the houses for during this period as well. We bought two motels in vastly different towns and different states. And rather than having great managers run them, it was sporadic average managers coming and going and us filling in the gaps in the meantime.
Wow, what a crazy journey and story that you've been on. Do you wish you would have started this any earlier, back maybe when you were, in public service at all, or did the timing work well because of being the house husband and having time to kind of fill what you wanted to do with your time?
Looking back, would have been great to have started it 10 years earlier to have the cash flow and the lifestyle at a younger age. But for us, what did work in our favour is that back in 2012, things were quite quiet in the real estate and motel industry. So when we looked at buying this one, we pretty much went in with no cash. And the guy was so keen to get out that he funded us the deposit, funded us the whole lot.
Oh,
until
wow.
the bank came along and gave us 80% about 6 months later. So he was prepared to fund us into it to get out. So for us, it was a win-win. We just walked in with a self-funded loan from the owner. We ended up borrowing we borrowed $100,000 off friends to put down as a down payment as our deposit, and he funded the other 900.
What do you think your cash flow was at the peak? Or maybe even still, maybe the peak's now, I don't know.
For that motel or for us, the entity in general?
Yeah, just the energy in general with all the assets under roof.
So once we started, because what we started selling the houses, we started selling them down one or two at a time per year. And they were all profitable because in the last 10 years, real estate in Australia has gone the same way as most other countries. And every one of those houses went up in value either well or substantially. So the turnover or the income into our pocket every year was between 1 and 1.5 million per year once we factored in profits from houses as well.
Picture this. You're running a business and suddenly you realize you need to hire somebody yesterday. The pressure's on and the time is ticking. So how do you find top talent fast? The answer is simple. Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. I do it all the time. With sponsored job ads, your post stands out, jumping to the top of search results for the candidates you actually want to reach. And here's the best part. It works. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs get 45% more applications than non-sponsored ones. Plus, there are no monthly subscriptions or long-term contracts. You only pay for results. I love how fast and efficient Indeed makes hiring. When I think about past experiences where finding the right candidate took forever, I wish I had Indeed back then. With their tools, hiring is fast, stress-free, and focused on results. Ready to speed up your hiring process? While I've been talking to you, 23 hires have already been made on Indeed worldwide. Don't wait. Get started now. Listeners of this show get a 75% sponsored job credit to make your job post stand out. Visit Indeed.com/unveiled and tell them you heard it here. That's Indeed.com/unveiled. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where do you go from here? You mentioned you're kind of retired at this point. Do you have a net worth goal? Do you have any kind of other things that you're aiming towards at this point in your life?
Well, I recently just bought another large management rights, but what I'm looking for now is I've got two daughters and a grandson. I don't need any more money. I can't spend what I'm making now, so I'm happy to funnel it to them to try and get them set up so that their future is as good as mine is. Maybe theirs is going to be a lot longer and they'll have longer to spend it. But my daughter, who is my business partner, who owns 50% of everything, she was 24 when she retired, and she'll never have to work again.
Talk to us a little bit about funneling to the kids, grandkids. Like, how do you think about that? How are you executing? I mean, obviously at 50-50 with your daughter, so she's got part of the business now and the cash flow and whatnot. But is there anything special that you're doing or being very intentional with that?
So I've got the second daughter who wasn't a partner in the business. She's now a lawyer and works in a different state. She's quite successful and does earns a very good income for herself. But when she needed a house recently, or actually she went and bought 2 houses, the bank of mum and dad helped out and probably put a couple $100,000 in to get it all off the ground and get her where she was, with the understanding at that time that it was to be paid back. She did eventually pay that back in about a year or two. And then she got jittery about having real estate and decided to sell it all and make a tidy profit. She cleared something like 450 for herself and promptly gave it back to me and invested it in one of our motels, our caravan park actually. So that returns her an income of about 10% per year, and it's there waiting for her to make her next foray into real estate if she decides she wants to buy another house, because at present she's renting.
Do you think you'll continue to buy any more at all? Or are you kind of, hey, I'm set now, I don't need any more money, just kind of let this ride at this point?
I would think at this time I'm looking at going, probably got enough, but if the right deal came along, I would sort of probably jump at it because it'd have to be 10+% return. But I'm sort of leaning more towards paying down now some of our debts. I'll tell you, we have debts of close to 7.5 million. So it'd be nice to get some of those paid down.
Yeah, for sure. Does your daughter have much desire to continue to grow it, or is she more kind of at the stage you are? Let's pay down debt versus
So in
grow.
2016, when we sold the motel and she walked away, she said, "Dad, I don't care what you do. Pay me my allowance every week. You can run everything. You do everything. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to ask any questions. And if there's any paperwork, just stick it in front of me and I'll sign it. And I don't want anything to do with it." And that's the way it's been the last
Wow.
9 years. So that's why I can say it's mostly mine. She gets her allowance. We both get an income each week out of it. And she wants nothing to do with it. She's now got a 3-year-old son who the business will support in private school and education and whatever else he needs until he probably one day gets his own income out of it all.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. How old were you when you quasi or quote unquote retired then?
So 2016, 9 years ago, 55.
Okay. Okay, so closer to a traditional age. Has anything changed in terms of your financial habits at all? As this income and the net worth has grown drastically in the last, decade plus?
Oh, for sure. I mean, a holiday for us now is not a cheap holiday. We're currently doing 3 months in America. So we, fortunately, the first month is a house swap. So it's pretty much a free holiday, but the flights over here were 35,000 with business class via Japan and San Francisco to get to Colorado. And then we've got an RV trip around Texas, and then we've got Alaska to do a cruise, and then Seattle to New York in a Mustang. So when you're talking holidays now, they're quite an event.
Is this the first time that you've done something like this, or is this kind of been an annual deal?
We try and do a big holiday every Christmas, and then the wife and I are planning on doing a bigger one in the middle of each year. So that's the middle of this year. Christmas is Morocco for a month, maybe a couple of weeks in the Middle East somewhere. That'll be another expensive holiday.
Do you even think about what you spend on these holidays now, or is it just whatever I feel like from a comfort standpoint? That's what I'm going for.
I'm very tight, so I count every dollar and agonize over spending it. I've got 2 daughters and a wife who have no trouble spending the money. So when we were sitting down and looking at Morocco, and my second daughter is a little bit, she's got my gene. She is a little bit tight, and she came to me recently, and because Christmas is a family holiday. So everybody goes. So there's 5 of us, including the grandchild, all going business class to Morocco. We're doing a guided tour. We've been to Morocco, so we've done it all before, but we're going again. It's coming to $100,000 so far. My daughter said, it's $100,000. I don't want to go. It scares me spending that much money. I said, well, we've got to spend it on something.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't like
When did
watches and I don't have fancy cars. I have two pretty standard cars and I don't wear a watch.
Okay, so spending on travel. Do you remember, in terms of kind of from a luxury standpoint, how old you were, what your net worth was when you first started flying business class?
Yeah, it was the first time we went was about 2018. It was a special deal. It pretty much conned us into being stuck with business class forever. It was $4,000 a head to go around the world. We did Thailand, New York, and whatever, and it just wrecked us for any other travel. From now on in, the family won't travel unless it's business class.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah,
Oh
I mean, the
man.
first time was like, I think it was a teaser. It was quite cheap. We like,
Yeah.
thought, "Oh, that's decent. Yeah, for around the world. But now it's not so cheap.
That's funny. So, e- every travel, even, I mean, do you travel domestically, you still fly business class, or just when you go overseas?
So the deal is if it's more than 4 hours, but Australian business class and economy, there is very little difference. It's a
Okay.
slightly wider seat, but everything else is the same. So it's short trips. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Any other luxuries that you've indulged in since becoming a millionaire?
Well, we both bought the houses that we wanted. So we both got nice houses. I got a house sitting on top of a cliff on the coast, which is what I always wanted. I bought a boat, which was fun for a year or two, but no longer have that because didn't get enough use out of it. I bought a very nice car and caravan, and I took my non-business partner daughter around Australia for a year. We travelled the whole coast of the country for exactly 1 year with a caravan and car, and come back. She went back to work. And I sold it all and went back to what I was doing.
How old were you when you bought the house and the boat?
So we've had the house just over 2.5 years and the boat around about the same sort of time. I bought the boat because I wanted to go and sit on the Whitsunday Islands and fish and dive and play around there for a couple of months and see what it was like. I did that for 3 months, loved it. When I got back down to the coast, which was cold and windy and rough seas and no one to dive or fish with because everybody else was working or in a different area, it just sat there. I just didn't have the use for it.
Did you end up selling it?
Yes, only recently I sold it for not much less than what I paid for it. I think I lost 5,000 on it. I had it
How
for
much?
2 years.
How much did you buy it for?
45.
Oh, okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So, 50 in your 50s before you kind of really started indulging with the net worth, or with the
Yeah, I
cash
didn't
flow and
start
stuff.
working till 50, so retired at 55. And then when we sold the motel, we had a planned trip to go to Africa. So we went on safari in Africa. We did that on the cheap. We went on one of those Kontiki bus tours, and that was our last cheap holiday. And it was tough. It was hard sitting on a bus with 20 people and roughing it, tents and whatever. That was our last roughing trip. Ever since then, it's been business class.
Man, quite a journey and a story. Where do you go from here? Is there any trips on the bucket list that you're looking forward to, or is it kind of revisiting some of these same places that you've mentioned that you've gone and are going back to?
Yeah, well, Morocco was something my daughter and I did when we were just the two of us were tripping around. So we liked it, and the rest of the family haven't seen it. So we sat around. Every Christmas we try and work out where we're going for next Christmas.
We were in Bali last
Uh,
Christmas.
So we just spent the last Christmas. We spent 6 weeks in Bali, sitting around the Christmas table, going, "Where are we going next year?" And it become an issue of trying to pick somewhere that everybody wanted to go that we hadn't been to. So some of the people who didn't see Morocco threw it up and said, "Let's go and have a look at that. You guys can show us around." So we thought, fine, we'll do that. And then I only got told yesterday, "Hey, Dad, we've just discussed the two daughters have just discussed amongst themselves and decided they want to see the Christmas markets in Germany next year for Christmas." So apparently, I'm doing a cruise down the Rhine or whatever in Germany next Christmas.
Good for you. Good for you. Do you plan on indulging any more luxuries at all, or increasing spend beyond what you've kind of got to at this point?
Other than travel, I mean, travel is our main expense and luxury. We don't expect to buy fancy cars, or we've got the houses we need, so we don't expect to buy any more houses. If we do, it'll be a case of sort of selling the one we've got and just buying something similar in a different location.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. What's the most expensive pair of shoes or pants that you purchased?
Probably some casual leather shoes for about $150.
Okay. You've mentioned all the vacations. Is $100,000 kind of the top end, or have you spent more than that on any of them?
Probably $100,000 at the top end. We did 3 months in Europe and Italy and Greece 2 years ago, and that was about the same. And yeah, Morocco's just going to be $100,000 as well.
Okay. What about the most expensive car?
105 was the Toyota Land Cruiser to tow the caravan.
Okay. All right. All right. What about the most expensive meal out?
Tried to work this out, but we went to see Celine Dion in Las Vegas a couple of years ago and had dinner at the steakhouse there in the casino. And I know it was very, very expensive, and I can't tell you somewhere around the $500-$600 mark.
Okay, so not crazy, not crazy. What's the craziest thing you've ever done to earn money?
Ooh, out of school, I was looking around trying to find a job, and there wasn't much to do at 15 and a half. So I ended up working with my father in a chicken factory. There was all these 250,000 chickens per shed, 20 feet above the ground, and I was the idiot down below shoveling the chicken out of the way and loading up trucks full of chicken.
Okay, all right. Was that how you made your first buck too?
I did work while I was at school. I had a milk run in the afternoon, so I did 6 days a week every afternoon running a milk run for $5 a night.
All right, all right. What's something that you've spent way too much money on but you don't regret?
Yeah, the holidays.
Okay. What's the biggest financial mistake that you've made?
So I was reluctant to answer that recently when I thought about this question previously. So I floated it with my wife and said, what would you say would be my financial mistake? And she blurted out the exact thing which I was thinking and I wasn't going to say, which was my wife. When I was a house husband, I was working on office managing for her business and helping her run it. And I looked around and found a couple of other smaller businesses and then helped her to acquire them. And we built them all up into a accounting empire. Me thinking, this is how you do it, and you raise your prices, you make lots of money. Her thinking was a lot different to my thinking, and it didn't go the way I was expecting. And my thought processes went along the lines of, I expected other people to think and act the way I was thinking and wanted to act, and it doesn't always work out that way.
Wow, that's funny. What's the biggest financial habit that's changed since you became a millionaire? And how old were you when you became a millionaire?
So we probably didn't become a millionaire till we sold that property and all our
2018.
gathered all our properties together and sort of worked out the values and everything. So probably between 2016, 2017, we sort of realised that we're on paper we were a millionaire. We didn't really have the huge cash flow at that time. So it was probably a year or two after that the cash started turning over and giving us the illusion that we were richer. Habits that changed the most, it was something that struck me actually. It was spending more freely, sort of even just things like food. You're looking in the supermarket and going, oh, what's cheaper or what's not cheap, and now you're thinking, I don't care. It's sort of, well, if something is, I want something. If it's a kilo of prawns and it's $70 or $80 this week, I'm going to have them. Whereas previously I would have gone, you know what? I'll just give those a miss this week.
Yeah, for sure. What's a closely held belief that you once had that you recently changed your mind on?
Yeah, well, I guess the theory that I thought everybody thought the same way and everybody would act the same way and want the same sort of outcomes didn't work that way.
Okay. What's a key lesson you learned from childhood?
I guess for me it was, I'm tight. I've always been tight. So for me it was a case of just putting your money away, not wasting it, stacking it up and finding the right uses for it. Even when I was working that milk run and making $5 a day, I was, at some stage, I'd lent my family thousands of dollars to do house renovations with no prospect of even getting it back. But I was probably 12 at the time. And it was a case of, I just had the money there and might as well be put to good use.
As somebody who says that they are tight and that's probably your natural leaning tendency, how have you been able to overcome that and be willing to freely spend a little bit and pay, spend $100,000 on a vacation with, the ability to do so?
Having 3 girls, 2 girls and a wife, it helps. It's just disposable. I mean, the reason I just bought the property recently, which was 4.5 million, was a case of we had so much money sitting there that it was, let's do something with it. Let's make it work. So we did that with that property, and then it still was piling up. So we thought, well, you've got to spend it. You can't just sit back and count it forever and die with it. So that's something that comes up in your podcast a lot, is how people change their mindset from stacking it up to actually getting around to spending it. And I've gotten to that stage now where I'm thinking I've got to spend it and spend more of it to make sure that it's not just left stacked up behind me when I've gone.
Yeah. Are you trying to spend it down at all and give it away along the way? Or do you plan on having something when you die? It's just inevitable with the cash flow and the net worth that you've accumulated.
I thought originally that I should spend it all and leave a debt for my coffin when I died, but that's not likely to happen now. I'm more focused now on making sure that my family is taken care of once I'm gone, including any grandkids and whatever else we've got going into the future.
Good for you. Any last words of advice for those who are just starting out on their journey?
My journey was a very different one, being motels. I've met other people who might own 5 McDonald's stores, or they've done it all on multi-story houses or whatever else. It's just find your passion, find what you know, research it, learn it, get as much information together as you can, and follow your own passion. Find what works for you and work it.
Awesome. That's Tony with the net worth $7+ million. Thanks for on the show today.
Thanks, Joyce.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.